Alright, so we're going to change out another Blazer blower motor. And of course right now it's relatively quiet. It's been screaming like crazy up until I turned the camera on. But I do have another video showing how to replace this. I was checking it out a couple weeks ago and I don't really like some of the shaky camera work, so I'm going to try to do another video with a more stable stationary camera. But at the end of this video I'll link to that other one if you want to check that one out. So let's get started. Alright, so we're going to start by removing this brain, the PCM here, and I'm going to remove these little blue clips. That allows you to depress the tab on these connectors. Okay, and if you do have a hard time with that clip, you can always take a small screwdriver and help your fingers out a little bit. So I'm going to hold off on the bottom two. There are two more down below. And I'm just going to hold off on removing those. I think it's going to be easier to get to them with the module out. So let's go ahead and remove these. I believe they're 10mm bolts. They're down here. Got one on the corner right here, and right here. Okay, I'll remove the camera here. Alright, so I can see those other tabs now. Break those loose a little easier. Okay, so we've got three nuts right here, and way in the back here. I don't know if you can see back here. Okay, 10mm, and you want to try not to lose them. Okay, so just to show you real quick, at the bottom of those studs, if you have one that ends up spinning like this one here, I'm just going to grab that with a pair of vice grips. The other two held just fine, but if you do end up with one of the nuts just spinning and not threading off, then you need to grab a hold of the other side of that. And I did spray it down with a little bit of penetrating fluid also. So let's go ahead and get that reservoir removed. Alright, so you've got two tubes. This is just an overflow tube. You can really just leave it where it is, or you can unplug it if you want. That way you can leave it strung down where it is already. Then you've got this one here that goes to the radiator, and I'm just going to pull off the radiator side. You might lose a little bit of antifreeze there. Nothing substantial. Going to tuck these up out of the way. See if we can get this out without spilling anything here. Alright, so this is one of those jobs where I think it's going to pay to remove as much of the clutter that is in your way. It's kind of tight as it is, and you've got to take a razor and cut all around here. You definitely don't want to cut any wires. So I'm going to remove this cluster of wires. I can pull this and disconnect this clip. Which will release that. I can remove this one. Because you just got to remember where all the stuff goes, Which is one of the advantages of recording it. It's worth noting, the new fan didn't have a spade for this ground wire. And I was ready to call the company and say, hey, what's the deal here? But actually, I read the instructions, which most everyone doesn't do, including myself, and found that it's an internally grounded replacement blower motor, so there's no spot for this external ground. Okay. Another thing that's probably worth mentioning also is that, the blower motors are listed differently from cars with the automatic temperature control and the manual control. So this one happens to have the fancy automatic temperature control, where mine just had the manual control. So they're actually more expensive if you've got the automatic temperature control. So, all right, now I need to get a sharp razor knife, and we need to cut out. There's an outline here, and we need to cut that out. If you can see it, Okay, and I try to do a good job because I really want to put that back. Now, some people have told me on my other video that this actually is really brittle and it breaks, and I think that's just fine. But I like to put mine back with Permatex in the end. So let me grab a razor knife here. Alright, so I'm using a razor knife with a brand new blade. And we're just going to take our time here. I'm probably not going to show the whole monotonous cutting process. I'm just going to go around, take my time. When you get to this section here, be cautious. There's probably a tube under there, and you don't want to cut in deep because you may end up cutting the tube. So let me go ahead and finish this up, and we'll be able to access the motor here once I get this piece cut out. So take your time, don't cut your finger off. Alright, so we're getting there. I've got a little bit on the back side of that tube, but you can see the tube. That's what you want to be careful not to cut. Alright, so I believe I'm cut all the way around. I've got to get that 7/32 inch bolt and washer off down below before I can remove this piece here. So you can see where it is. It's going to be a pain to get to. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch ratchet and an extension. So I'm going to go ahead and get that removed next. Try not to drop it because that'd be a pain to get back if you do. And there it is. So when you're removing a small screw like that in a difficult place, if you can just try to get your fingers up once it's been removed enough, you know, hold it in the socket. That's a good way to try to prevent it from falling. So, all right. So you can see I've got one spot there, but the idea is I'm going to try to put this back. It's going to have Permatex all the way around it anyway. So that's the one little spot that I didn't get very well. So aside from that, it's pretty clean. So. Alright, we're going to remove the rest of these little bolts here, the same size socket. Alright, so it's 7/32 and try not to drop any. Alright, so we're going to gently try to remove this tube from the original fan. And I say gently because you don't want to tear it, and it needs to go in to the new blower fan. So it's got a lip on it like this, you can see. So basically if it's dry and brittle you could pull that off and you don't want to do that. So alright, now if I remember correctly, this is a little bit of a job to get out of here by that stud. So take your time, spin it, finagle it until it comes out. I think that was where it was right there. Push that tube up out of the way. Alright, there it is. Let's put the new one in. Listen to that. Alright, here's the new one. A little different. Alright, so before we start putting that fan in, I'm going to tuck this tube up underneath here. And I'm actually going to, I didn't do this on my first attempt. I'm actually going to knock that stud out of the way. I can just grab a hold of it with vice grips like we did the other one. That's going to make our job 10 times easier. You can get the fan in there without removing that stud. I did it in my last video, but that's something I don't want to fight with right now. Now, all we've got to worry about really is that vacuum line and these cables. Yeah. So having that stud there makes the job just a little bit harder. So knock it out of the way if you have to, or try to work it in without removing it. Also, you might want to knock it out before you remove it. It's definitely going to be easier. So let's go ahead and pop these 7/32 bolts back in. Okay, don't forget about your tube, which we tucked up under the way here. That's got to go in that little port. Alright, so that's pretty much it. As far as installing it, now I need to basically put this back on. I'm going to use just blue Permatex. I don't have any black. Basically, I need to install the reservoir in the PCM and plug all these things back in. Alright, I'm just going to take some Permatex and go around the seam here. Don't have to be super fancy because most of this is hidden and no one really looks at it anyways. But alright, speaking of falling off, don't forget we've got the 7/32 inch bolt that goes down in here on the outside of the cover, so the thing wouldn't go anywhere anyways, but still like to use the Permatex. And again, be careful not to drop it. It's kind of a blind one. Let me move the camera here so I can actually see. And again on this one, the brown ground wire is not required. So I'm just going to tuck it out of the way. And now we just need to figure out where all the other wires go. That one went there. They can pretty much only go in the spot they belong in. See the amount of pins and so forth, the shape of it. And on the PCM, it's all color coded. As you can see, you've got red, blue, white, black. Okay, let me get the... that's supposed to have a pin in it like this, so it can't pull out. But this piece that's on the inside of the fender actually broke. That was sitting over here like that. So, all right, let me get the reservoir here and get that put in. And again, remember these two studs I've got to put a vice grip on in order to get them threaded on. This hose here goes back on the radiator. You want to get that back on. Okay, let me get this put back. Here's your overflow tube here that needs to go on. Let me grab those studs and get this thing mounted. And these were 10 millimeter. Alright, let's get the PCM in here. The brain. You can see here it's labeled on this little shield. Red, blue. And one of them didn't have a clip, if I remember correctly. Get that up out of the way. Try to untangle the wires a little bit. There. And I will put the locking clip on one side. Alright, so that goes. These again were 10 millimeter bolts. We've got white and black. This is black here. White right there. Alright, so hopefully this video has been helpful. It's a little bit of a pain, but take your time and you can do it. Leave questions and comments below. This again is the second of these blower motor videos I've made. And I'll link to that first one right here, and hopefully between the two of them, you'll be able to get yours replaced. So these again were 10 millimeter bolts. Go ahead and put those in. And I'm just going to go ahead and try it out. My camera's just about dead here. Leave questions and comments below. If you're doing this project, take your time and good luck. If you want to see more of this type of thing and haven't hit that subscribe button, please do so. Thanks for watching. Have fun.